Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Daryl. Welcome back to this channel. Let's continue our tutorials on Pythons and Excel for finance. There are three agendas items that I would like to go through. First of all, I would like to discuss on why we would like to use Microsoft 365. And then I will demonstrate on how to get a stock code with the use of Microsoft 365. And finally, I will introduce you three different methods to generate the data at a fixed interval. And that includes the Excel's refresh options, VBA, and Python. Let's go ahead and get started. First of all, let's discuss on why we would like to use Microsoft 365 on a certain situations. In the Python for Finance series, we introduce you this approach to capture the live data from Yahoo Finance and then store them into an Excel file. And in that case, we use Selenium to help us to do that. And say, for example, if I now have 9 currency pairs that I would like to capture the stock price and also the changes, and it ends up, if I run the programs, it takes me around 20 to 30 seconds to capture each of the samples. And these samples includes the price and price changes and percentage changes from each of the currency pairs. So if I use the Python approach, it's enough take me around 20 to 30 seconds to capture the data. So instead of having the first approach, using the Python's approach, we can indeed use Microsoft 365 to help us to generate the data, and then use Pythons to capture the data and download the data. And in that cases, we can actually speed up the entire process to around 4 to 5 seconds for each of the samples. And if I keep everything remains unchanged, in that case, I will continue to capture live currency pairs. I will continue to capture their price changes, and percentage changes. So you can see that apart from the initializations, that takes me around 24 seconds. Other than that, it will just need 4 to 5 seconds to capture the data for each of the row. And therefore, in terms of the speed, the Excel approach is faster. Apart from the speed, sometimes the Yahoo Finance webpage or other webpage, they might just change the HTML code. So in that case, we also need to change our code in the Selenium or the Beautiful Soup in order for us to do the web scraping correctly. So in that case, the first approach is much more vulnerable to the changes in the source file or in the data source provider. Comparatively, in the second approach, Microsoft will help us to connect to the third parties to help us to retrieve the data. And in that case, Microsoft will help us to take care about the reliability and stability. Therefore, in terms of the stability and in terms of the speed, the second approach is better. Now, let's see how we can get the code with the use of a Microsoft 365. First thing first, we need to open an empty Excel file. And then what we need to do is to type in the code of the stock or the currency pairs that you are interested in. And say, for example, you might want to interested about the DJI, Apple, Microsoft Office, Google, Amazon's, Facebook, and Tesla regarding the stocks. And regarding the currency, you might be interested to have the Euro dollars to US, US dollars to Japanese, pounds to USD, Aussie dollars to USD, New Zealand dollars to USD, and then Euro dollars to JPY, pounds to JPY, Euro dollars to Canadian dollar, and Euro dollars to SEK. And now we have the codes for the stock or the index, and we also have the codes for the currency pairs. What we need to do is to highlight the stock code over here, and then click on data. In the middle, you should find these icons, stocks icons. In that case, just click on it to convert these data types to stocks data types. And in most of the cases, we have successfully found out the corresponding stock, except this Amazon. So because there are plenty of suggestions that are relevant to this AMZ. So in that case, that should be the stock for the Amazons. So we just select it. Now we have the stock informations. For the currency, we can do the same. Highlight the currency and then click on the data. Instead of clicking on the stock, now we clicked on the currency to convert the data types to currency pairs. Just click on it, and then we just retrieve the stock index or the currencies successfully. Now what we need to do is to capture the features. So say, for example, there are plenty of features that you can find it from with the use of the Microsoft 365 stock or currency functions. So now here, just click on the Dow Jones index. And then there's a tiny little icons over here that you can click on this to extract the data to a cell. So there are plenty of data or plenty of fields that you can retrieve. That includes the 52 weeks high, low change, percentage change, and so and so. So what I would like to retrieve is the price, and then the changes, and then the percentage changes. And then you can just highlight all these features and then double click at the corner. So now we have the features, that is the price, changes, and then the percentage changes. Of course, you can just feel free to redefine the format. And similarly for the currency pairs, you can just click on it, click on one of the currency, and then click on the icon, tiny little icon over here, and then pick the fields that you would like to retrieve. Say, for example, price, and then the changes, and then the percentage changes. Again, you can just highlight these 3 features and then click on the tiny little icons at the corner. Excellent. We have just successfully used Microsoft 365 to help us to get a stock code or get a currency code. Now let's take a look to see how we can pull the data or generate the data at a fixed time interval with the use of the first methods, Excel's refresh options. So what you need to do is just go back to the Excels that we previously created and then highlight the stock or currency pairs code, and then right click and then select the data type and then refresh setting. Just click on it. And there are 3 options. You can just expand these items. Over here, the stock. There are 3 options. You can refresh this data type automatically for every 5 minutes, or on the file opens. That means when you close the file, when you open the file, it will just help you to refresh the data. And finally, of course, that is for the menu. You can just click on refresh and then it will just help you to refresh the data manually. And these are the default options. And just in case if you want to automatically refresh the data for every, say, 1 minute or 2 minutes or any other time intervals other than 5 minutes, in that case, we need to use the VBA, or we need to use the Pythons to help us to do so. So let me introduce you the second methods with the use of VBA. So first of all, let's go back to the Excel files that store our stock data and currency data. And in this file, first thing first, I would like to just insert 2 icons. One is start icons and the other one is the stop icon. So now we have 2 icons. Let me just minimize that. I mean, reduce the size. And then the first things that I would like to do is to change the name of the icon. Just select the icon over here and then just click on this and we name it to live. And then for this one, just click on the stop icon and then we name it to stop. So you can see this is the live icon and this is the stop icon. So the next things that I would like to do is to right click on these tapes, on the sheet 1 tape, and then click on the view code. And you should see these VBA for you to declare your functions. The first things that I would like to do is to right click the VBA project and then insert the module. Now we have the module for this workbook. And now we can create the functions. The first functions that I would like to declare is the mouse click. So whenever there's a click on the icons, I will just check out the applications color. That is for the name. whether or not it's clicking on the live buttons or the stop button. So if it's click on the live buttons, I will just call the refresh functions. Else if the application's caller is a stop, that means that is a stop button, then I will just call the stop refresh and this if. And this is the first functions. And then what we need to do is to create the refresh functions and also stop refresh functions. So just create a refresh functions and create a stop refresh functions. So if there's a click on the live button, then I will just activate the workbook. Activate the workbook functions, refresh all. And then I will create a loop. This is like a while loop. And this while loop is the on time functions. And there are two arguments that I need to add. The first argument is that how long that we should refresh this notebook. So I should say how frequent that we would like to refresh this notebook. In this case, say 1 second from now. And then the second argument is that you need to put these functions inside this on time while loop. So what I need to do is just to provide these functions. So adding up these two lines of code is that it will just refresh this data set for every 1 second. Therefore, whenever someone's just click on the live button, we will call out these refresh functions. And then inside these refresh functions, there is a loop, on times loop, that will help us to refresh these functions or refresh this notebook for every 1 second. So if you would like to just change it to every 5 seconds, you can just change it, or 10 seconds, or you can just change it, and so on. So, and then whenever there's someone that just click on the stop, we will just call out this stop refresh functions. And first of all, we will just kickstart the refresh functions, and then we will just stop it right away by providing one more argument as the false. That means for this schedule, we will just stop this schedule by setting it as the false. The first lines of code is just to avoid a bug, is that someone just click on the stop without starting the caller or without starting the on times applications. So in that case, I will just help him. I will just make sure that the on times refresh has been kickstarted before I end it. Now we just create these 3 functions. For the first functions that is on mouse clicked, that means whenever there's someone that click on the live or click on the stop, it will call out different functions. And if someone just click on the live, it will just call the refresh. If someone click on the stop, it will call out the stop refresh. And for the refresh, it will help me to refresh the entire workbook and then on a certain time interval. And then for the stop refresh, it will just help me to kickstart the on times, kickstart the refresh functions, and then later on I will just just set the schedule as false to stop the refresh. So now we can get back to the Excel file and then assign the VBA to each of the button. So just right click on the live and then assign macro and choose the on mouse click. Okay, for the stop, again right click and then assign macro and then on mouse click and then click OK. Now you can just click on the live and you can see it just keeps refreshing the data. And say for example, you can see there's some changes over here because the US stock market hasn't started yet, so there's no change for that. So just in case, if I would like to stop, just click on stop. So this is the way how I set up the dashboard. You can see we have different informations over here that includes the index and also the stock informations. And I can just click on the live and then it will just keep updates the data here for every 1 second. Of course, at the back end, it also helped me to continues to update the candlestick for this dashboard, but we'll go through it later. And that's it for this part 1. We just introduced you why we would like to use the Microsoft 365 and how we can use it to help us to retrieve the data, and with the use of the default options or with the use of the VBA, it allows us to generate the data at different fixed time interval. And in the next lessons, we will focus on Python. That is the last methods that will allow us to generate the data at the back end with the use of Excel, and at the same time use the Python to help us to capture the data and of course refresh the data at a fixed time interval. And so see you in the next video. Bye bye.